I've always had a mind like this. I'm sure you do too. But when you look at other artists on socials and you see the rollout for new music, the music is one thing. The assets generated for the music is another thing. So the visual thing, the art, music video, playthroughs, what have you. But the mechanics of the rollout and the strategy are something that, like, some people get it, some people don't, right? Some people glaze over, that's boring, they don't care, they just want to see what the artist is giving them, that's fine. As a guy who does the thing and has always been interested in the thing, I'm like looking at like what is ticking behind the scenes to make that decision? Who is strategizing to specifically, do a rollout like this, the timing between singles, what assets are accompanying the single, etc. And the game has changed a lot. Yeah, this is dope though. It's good to fucking see you guys.
What's it been?
Yeah.
Like a decade.
Yeah, at least for Omar and I, it's been a decade. Yeah,
Yeah.
Holy, yeah, that's
that's
crazy.
that's insane.
Man, I just can't believe after I think about intervals and Ever Forthright playing for a room of like
Yep,
six people in the middle of nowhere, Canada.
yep, dude.
It's
I
so
think about
cool.
that stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing like what consistency can do for you. It's been really cool to just watch you stick with it and all this awesome stuff happen. The last
Oh,
time
thanks, man.
the last time I saw you, I think was a long time ago. I think at Santo's Party House
Oh,
in the city.
wow.
And then I had
So,
tickets last year to see you with Animals and oh no 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 no. I saw you when Wrigley Bear was playing rhythm guitar.
mm,
So more recently.
mm.
Yeah, I saw you then.
Okay, yeah,
Um
sweet.
and
Yeah,
then
Santos would have been. We played there twice. One was our first ever New York show, one of our first ever US shows. Um, that would have been with Misery Signals, which was a strange one. That was 20, also 2013. But then I headlined at Santos in 2016 when Plenty supported me on
oh
the Shape
that
of
was
Color
one that
tour.
was the one. Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, Plenty was playing
yeah,
guitar.
yep. So there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that one, and then yeah, we haven't been back to Santos since. But I saw Jared at Irving with the on the Animals tour last year. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had tickets to
Yeah.
that one too and I got two kids now, so something came up and I was like,
Uh,
fuck, you know.
it's all
So
good.
it's
It's all good.
things like that are gonna happen now. But I was there in spirit. I paid for the tickets, so
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was good to get caught up with Jared. We talked for a while. No, it's crazy. So a friend of mine just bought a house kind of near one of the places where we played, like way back, one of those small Ontario towns. I don't know if you remember the Red Dog in Peterborough, Ontario,
that's the
but
one. That's the one I always think about. Kind of the dive
yeah,
taverny.
especially considering I think we pretty much played the show to just each other.
Yeah, yeah. That was
And
that was my like knee slide night. I think.
big time, and we were like
Yeah.
running around the room just clowning the entire time, and that's so crazy. Yeah. So I was talking about that show recently. That was absolutely a decade ago, which is just so wild. I every time I go back and listen to all the original Ever Forthright stuff, it just makes me think about like that time period. Very nostalgic for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's cool. So there is. I was wondering like what those shows like where they sit in your mind or your heart having done like
Yeah.
thousands of shows now like do I guess they still like they're still there like Poontang Wings or those is that still in your head?
Dude, I'm still yo. I'm still an admin. I'm still an admin on the Facebook
Oh man,
page.
that's
Oh
amazing.
really?
I'm pretty sure it's me and Kevin Theodore, and we're still admins
It's
on the
like
page on
Oh, it's
Facebook.
so good.
Absolutely, yeah, that
that's
was
funny.
so good,
Oh,
so good.
I
No, I think about that stuff all the time, and those shows really do like for a few reasons. One of them being that they were sort of the inaugural. Uh, shows for us when we were getting started. And, you guys were the first like international, like a US band to like
Hmm.
come over the border and like come up here and do shows together and, take a chance on like trying to collaborate with us on in that capacity. So that was like really special, but also because the last few years has changed things so much that I think about those shows. I sort of opine about those shows when I talk to younger musicians from the area here who are trying to figure out how to get stuff off the ground. And I go back and I tell them, like, oh, we just like booked this little mini tour ourselves and we took a chance on, renting a little van and driving around and trying to make stuff happen. And now it's like with the cost of fuel, the availability of rental vehicles, and the fact that the local scene is effectively dead, been driven into the ground. Um, there just isn't like a whole lot of, it's pretty bleak, but there just isn't a whole lot of opportunity. I mean, I don't know what it's like in all the different local regions, like around where you guys are at and stuff. I'm sure there's a little bit more livelihood, but the Toronto and Ontario music scene as we knew it pre pandemic, which wasn't good either. It was already heading in the wrong direction, but that era, like 10 years ago when we were doing those shows, that was like the last bastion of like really good, 416 and 905 Ontario music community. And you could go see shows that were just only locals only. And you would see bands taking a chance on things and stuff. It's just like, it's crazy now.
Yeah,
Even with us, we're so measured now. We have to be.
one thing I wrote down here was I wanted to hear more about that post you made some weeks ago, some months ago now, about, hey, we're looking for bands that just want to play. We usually do this with our booking agent, yada yada. If you're a band that wants to get out there, let me know and we'll do this the old-fashioned way. Tell me like why that was a necessity or why things are going that way.
For that very reason, because we that particular show was a makeup date for the Toronto show from our headliner in December of 2021, which is our first tour back post pandemic, and we did 29 of 30 shows with zero problems. And then of course, as we made it, we even got everybody over the border into Montreal on the Friday, did the show. Stuff was really tight then. Canada was in a way different situation. And then when we got to Montreal and we did the show, I was getting a phone call from management and booking telling me to basically I had to punt the show because the city was going to lock down again. This was right before Christmas 2021, so we were headed back into. I know New York actually shut down around the same time. I did get a message from Adam at Live Nation letting me know that our Gramercy show was the last show on their calendar, and then they're going to have to go dark until probably February or something like that. But then we ended up spending, even the beginning of 2022 in a considerable lockdown here. So it was not a good time. Things had opened up just a little bit, and then, it was what it was. So because we had to move the show, obviously, Thank You Scientists weren't going to come up for one. We were, however, going to bring up Moontooth, and we were going to do 3 shows. And we were really looking forward to that. And then it was very unfortunate what happened to Nick. I'm so glad he's good now. But at the time, that was pretty scary and stuff like that. And I'm thinking about like, what are we going to do? So for the reasons we just talked about, I'm super passionate about this. Like I wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity we could extend a bit of an olive branch. There was only a couple hundred tickets at the Opera House left to sell. We had sold the majority of the room. I think 80% of the tickets were done. So that's an opportunity for a local band in the area to come run around and do some shows with us that are already sold.
Yeah.
Come rock a sold out Opera House show. I want to give that opportunity, and you don't see a lot of that. So that was basically like why I was thinking about like, let's see what comes back. I mean, it was a bit of a mistake because my DMs I never recovered, but RIP.
So you found a band or
Yeah,
two?
so we found what we did actually was we did 2 things. We put a local on in every city. Including my friend David, who opened the Toronto show, who used to play in my old local band, like from way back, and that was really cool. He's doing different music now, and it was like a fun opportunity to be able to collaborate in that capacity and put him on the show. But we also put on a band called Falset, who are from Ontario, from Northern Ontario, and their drummer Chance. not I don't know if nepotism is important or not, but his father is James LaBrie from Dream Theater, and
Oh, no way.
yeah, so they're a great band, and they actually supported Dream Theater when they came through on their first post pandemic run. That Arch Echo was on, but they didn't come up to Canada, so Falset jumped on, and that's when I caught wind of them. And I think they're actually a really cool band, and I didn't realize that they're local. I knew James is actually from Ontario, but they live like 2 hours north of Toronto, or not even actually. They're fairly local. So I was like, well, why don't you guys come do all the shows and we'll put a local on? Like, let's just do a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I was wondering like what is what with that post I had wondered what is like the feasibility of a band that just kind of focuses on their local thing, or a band that just lives in the East Coast, or something like that. And then I think about guitar players like Tim Miller, who I think teaches part-time at Berkeley and does occasional shows at
Yep.
smaller places. And just like kind of different ways of being in a band, or being a musician, being an artist. Those things have been kind of cycling through my head the last couple months. You know, because because I at this point in my life, it wouldn't be very easy for me to jump into a van for a month and go do that kind of thing. So I'm in a period where I'm thinking, like, I could write the music from home, but there's got to be a way to at least embrace the local scene, and make like a name for myself in New York or the
hmm
tri-state area at the very least.
Man, I mean, I think about this stuff all the time. I mean, this is sort of the recurring theme so far here, which is that like if I talk to artists that are starting out or people who are passionate about really trying to give it a go, the parameters of the game are quite different now. Whereas I think when we started, it was a perfect hybrid of like working the grassroots angle in your local community and like being at shows, meeting people, meeting the promoter, being eager to accept support opportunities and things like that to get your name out. Even going as far as cramming everybody in a vehicle and doing some weekend warrior type stuff where you go hit three. I mean, you guys came up here and you saw how many places there are to play within a small region. And it's funny
Hmm.
because you do that in America and you're like traversing state borders, but Ontario's so big that like you can rock like 7 shows. You could do like a mini little week tour or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunities. So that's what breaks my heart about this area is that there's so much of it, but the last few years and the way things have gone and choices made by the people that run this country have really taken that away from the ability to seize on those types of opportunities for young people. So with that being said, we can't cry about it, so you have to adapt and figure it out. So now more than ever, online is paramount, of course. It always has been, and that's been starting to supersede the grassroots and like IRL tactics in the last few years, or the last 5 to 8 years even.
Yeah.
But I think that there's some merit in developing that grassroots approach, not so much from the standpoint of like becoming a figure of lore within your local community or like a local legend or hometown hero or something like that, but actually because the difference. And I mean, I don't have to tell you, like the difference between guys who do it on the internet and guys who do it overall for real is the ability to communicate with other musicians in a live context, know what it takes to play the shows, know what it takes to show up with your band and be professional, and what a headliner is expecting to see from a support act in terms of your etiquette, how you carry yourself, you go along to get along at the show, like honoring the running order and the schedule and things like that. You
Yep.
know, unless none of that matters and it's only the online stuff that for the guys who are really in it just to make content, which is a word that bothers me a little bit, but because I think that it sort of undermines the whole purpose of creating art. It's not, it shouldn't be the impetus for the thing, it should be a byproduct of the thing. That's just me
That's your
personally,
thing.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
so
It's
I don't know. I mean, I just think that like uh, these days the internet is absolutely king, but there's things that I'm willing to do and things that I'm not willing to do. And I think that like for what we do, Nick, like I'm seeing some success from certain people, traversing the world of TikTok and things like that. I personally have never downloaded it. It's on none of my devices. I don't spend time on it. I have opinions about how that thing functions and why it's there. And I'm at a place where I don't personally feel the need to use it to reach the people that care about the music that I make. I think that we've built a system where using Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and then, actual publicity and things and outlets and stuff, magazines and things like that. That
So
still works for us. So,
who is the audience these days for this kind of music? And like, do you think it you're pulling along the audience that you had 7 to 10 years ago, or do you think that
mhm.
there's 18-year-olds? Because one phrase I used to hear a decade ago was the kids, like, oh, the kids love this, it's
The
too for the
kid,
kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
kids,
And
yeah,
then I still hear it every now and then, but way, way, way less. Like, oh, the kids could,
right.
the kids, because now the kids are 28, 30 years old. And
Mm, mm.
and I look at my insights on Instagram. This could just be me. I have no idea what the insights are for other people, but my insights are 25 to 34, like 98%,
Yes.
98% male. So those aren't really kids anymore. Um, um,
Yeah. I think that, in the case of what you're doing, I think that your demographic, like what you just said, is like absolutely spot on. I mean, I think that that's going to be the case most of the time with guitar centric music, heady guitar centric music. Um, you know, hey man, listen, 98's not 99, dude. Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That 1%, it's changing, dude. Next year could be 97, dude.
Yeah.
It could start changing, but that's something. It's funny enough. Tosin and I talked about this, like that we actually noticed, and we noticed this on our headliner that we did before the Animals tour, that the demographic is changing. There's definitely more, girls in the crowd, and they may or may not be there with their boyfriend. So, that's definitely
Yeah.
like changing in terms of who's interested. But to play off of what you're saying, as far as like this concept of like we always used to refer to the kids. I do actually think that the kids are still there. So in the context of intervals, I'd actually have to check to see where it's at right now. But my demographic would be as low as 14 and as high as like 60.
Wow.
So I'm tapping into a really wide range because I think that I don't know, perhaps the melodic or the more colorful nature of the music is a little bit more inviting. Um, and then when you cover some ground as far as publicity is concerned, when you do like a really concerted PR effort on things like this, and you get into some outlets, you're going to start reaching people that are, of course, within the specific niche of who's consuming guitar, related content. Um, but then when you start tapping into streamers and gamers and things like that, and people start discovering your music and finding like, oh, they're a fan of this kind of thing and they like to game to your stuff on stream, or they like to have it in the background on just chatting on Twitch or like whatever, that will open the door for people outside of the realm of just guitar related. And then they start to go, oh, yeah, man, I really love studying to this, driving to this, gaming to this.
Hmm.
And then that's when I think it really starts to broaden things. Because if you look at what youth culture is, how they're consuming media and what they're consuming these days, so much of it is this like esports world, like gaming and streaming personalities and things is really where their head's at. And so the kids are not the kids from shows now, it's the kids from the internet and figuring out a way to tap into like, kind of traversing, transcending that line a little bit. I mean, to use a modern example, of course, Polyphia are doing such a good job at that because Tim has always been very deliberate with not only the aesthetic musically, but visually, which, of course, there is a superficial nature to the way, artists are marketed, and the world and the universe that you exist within is, the stronger that is and that identity and that branding, the more inviting it is for certain types. And, Tim's very calculated, so you can see exactly what they're after. There's overlap between the interval sound and the polyphia sound. Of course, we started out I mean, because I remember when they were playing their first shows, they were supporting Intervals and the Contortionist on like a short run back in 2014. They had just done like their first ever shows with Monuments, just doing some routing shows and stuff. I remember, that situation was totally different back then. And Tim's always been very deliberate about the trajectory there. So he's all about doing the thing with guitar music, but really opening his arms up and trying to grab the internet as much as possible. Whereas what we do, and we exist in that circle. I mean, of course, I'm on two of their early releases. We've collaborated in some capacity. I took them to Europe, took them to Australia. For me, my head personally, and I'm a few years older and stuff, I care more so about, the niche and the world that we live in. I don't want to be the end all be all for everybody. I don't actually, it doesn't satisfy me to think about like, okay, it's time for a new PR campaign. How do we sharpen the pencil on reaching more people that don't know about guitar music? What I want to do is find those people organically without marketing ploys. I want to do it through word of mouth. I want to do it because, there's a kid in your household who can't get enough of it, wants his first guitar because he saw it on the internet. All he does is consume guitar music, and really, because that's where I came from. I came from, pop punk, metal, and then finding progressive instrumental guitar centric music and just diving headlong into it. It's not about how it looks. It's not about what the characters are wearing or their personalities or anything. It's always just been about the sound, the playing, and then the superficial thing. I think for a guy like me and like what matters to the niche is things like gear. I'm surrounded by this is the stuff. I'm a nerd. I love things like that, right? So to
Yeah.
me, that's where it stops, and I'm fine to just cap there and have a really steady arc of just continuing to settle in and get better and better within the niche. Which of course we're finding acclaim outside of that, and we've been able to tap into. I see I meet people at shows all the time that tell me they found me through a Twitch streamer or through gaming and things like that. And we want to reach more people in this next cycle with things like placement, like sync opportunities with gaming and anime and things like that. There's a lot that we're thinking about trying to do outside of the usual channels.
I was just going to ask about that because I remember back like in like what 2011 2012
Yeah.
when like Facebook was allowing for less organic reach, and I remember you were actually very vocal about that on your Facebook page, and so I was going to ask like what are your tactics now? What things are you changing about that, and that whole like pairing it with like anime or games? How did you first A, hear about that, and B, what plans with that do you have floating around your head?
Yeah, so the Facebook thing, I mean, I'm sure you guys remember too, Nick. I'm sure you remember back in the early days, like designing an ad campaign and being like having no idea what the hell because it was all so new. Like, do you remember Facebook? You remember Facebook
Yeah.
pre-advertising? It was
Yeah.
like a chronological news feed where you turned up maybe in some new people's feeds because like their cousin dropped a comment. It was like it was a very simple. And that's where actually intervals grew from that, not from this new algorithm thing where you're playing the game with captions and the ratio of type in the thumbnail and all this nonsense. Like none of that. That's what convolutes things so much to me now, where like kids are asking me about all these tactics and I'm like, oh my God, I would just put it down and leave. Like I don't have time to think about how to like strategize anything outside of the music as far as like being a young creator. Crazy to me that you even have to concern yourself with these things. It should just be about
Well, that's
disseminating the art.
I'm coming back into this whole thing for the first time after some years. So I've got my foot almost in both camps. I've got my foot in like
Right.
the OG camp, and I've got my foot in this new camp because
Yes.
this year Everforthrift's going to put out some music, so that'll inherit a bunch of that. There's a bunch of people out there that want new Everforthright, but I'm also writing some of my new music where I just people are like, oh, you're the guy from Ever Forthright, or you're the guy from the Mayonnaise contest. Like, it doesn't really, the pieces aren't clicking yet. They don't know me as Nick Llerandi, the solo artist, the guy that writes his own music. So
Yes.
so I'm for the first time thinking, okay, what do I need to do to kind of let people know I exist? And I put out a real DIY EP in 2021, just 4 tracks they wrote from home. Didn't really put much money into it. They sound good. The new stuff I'm
Hmm.
putting out in the next couple of weeks sounds 1,000 times better. But
Yes, it does.
thank you. I'm glad I showed it to you.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So in 2010, 11, 12, Ever Forthright, even Stimpy Lockjaw would put out a YouTube video of us just putzing around in the studio or writing
Hmm.
something, and overnight get 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 views. And it was like, cool, this is what it is. We put out a
Hmm.
video and thousands of people listen to it. I put
Hmm.
out that EP in 2021, and I think today I'm still in the hundreds for the YouTube videos of like the visualizer videos of
Wow.
people watching it, and
Wow.
so I was like, shit, I guess this is what it is now. Like,
It's changed a lot.
there's a lot of different stuff I need to do. So that's when I said,
It's
okay,
changed.
I need some help, Omar. Let's do like a podcast. We got to like spread the wings a little bit more somehow,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then more of a focus on my Instagram stuff. Okay, I need to be consistent with the Instagram thing so people know that this exists. And granted, the music will often be the most important thing you can do. Like, as long as you focus on the music, you should
Hmm.
be in a
Always.
you should be in a pretty good 90% of your troubles should be taken care of. So then I went back to the drawing board and was like, all right, we're going to go to a legit studio and record the next bunch of music. Like,
Oh yeah.
we're gonna care about the music more so than anything, and so that's the strategy going into this next one. And I think it was a lesson learned. But
Hmm.
yeah, but I don't know. That was just kind of a rude awakening, and I don't know what it's going to be for Ever Forthright. Ever Forthright might put, because Ever Forthright had a cult following somehow. It doesn't. We don't have a following on paper. You look at Ever Forthright's Instagram, 700 followers. You look at Ever Forthright's Facebook. I don't even know who's on Facebook anymore. So the people that are even going to find out about Ever Forthright putting out a new record might just be word of mouth. Like, hey, did you hear Ever Forthright put out a new record? It's like, no, they don't exist on the internet. They didn't. So it's sort
Yeah.
of a yeah. I don't know. It's a weird. It's a different world now that
Yeah.
I'm working on building up, and I frankly wasn't prepared for a couple years ago.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Absolutely. So, I'll try to speak to a few of those things. And Omar, I'm going to come back to your question about the sync and the licensing and sort of what the plans are for that and how we're going there. But speaking to what Nick's after there, basically, I feel fortunate that we laid the groundwork early to find ourselves in a position now where we have a machine. It runs every cycle. It needs a tune up. So we definitely like go to the well and put our ear to the ground and figure out like, okay, what's the new thing. To be candid, last week my manager Rich and myself had a phone call with a new PR company. We are a ways out from material. I'll give you guys a little bit of info about like where we're at with new stuff and what's going on, our timeline, all that stuff. But we're what we refer to in our camp as eager beavers, because we tend to be way ahead of the curve on conversations and ideas and trying to outline a plan for things a lot of further ahead than a lot of the entities that we collaborate with, whether it's other artists that we're touring with or what have you. So I had this conversation with a new publicity agency last week, a really exciting company that's doing amazing things for some of the bigger bands in rock and metal right now. And we sought out that conversation as a result of me paying attention, like just, in between when we're doing these campaigns and stuff. I've always had a mind like this. I'm sure you do too. But when you look at other artists on socials and you see the rollout for new music, the music is one thing. The assets generated for the music is another thing. So the visual thing, the art, music video, playthroughs, what have you. But the mechanics of the rollout and the strategy are something that like Some people get it, some people don't, right? Some people glaze over, that's boring, they don't care, they just want to see what the artist is giving them, that's fine. As a guy who does the thing and has always been interested in the thing, I'm like looking at like what is ticking behind the scenes to make that decision? Who is strategizing to specifically, do a rollout like this, the timing between singles, what assets are accompanying the single, etc. And the game has changed a lot. So something that we chatted about last week, which is, we're pretty much up to speed. We just had a PR campaign for Circadian back in November 2020. Of course, doing it during like the height of COVID was like a weird time to do it and very interesting time for PR and everything, but it was ultimately the right call for us to drop then. And things didn't feel that different. It felt like the usual PR run, which is like you do everybody's podcast, you do a bunch of print interviews and online interviews and things like that. You might get some bigger features, some smaller things. You try to cover as much ground as possible. You are disseminating through your own socials as much as possible without driving people nuts, but you're putting out quality content. You're using YouTube for longer format. You're using Instagram and Facebook for medium to short format, etc. You're trying to aggregate and funnel everything to your links, all the usual stuff. But something that's changed a lot, and I'm sure you guys have seen as well, is the reaction video thing, which is like totally part of it's an arm of the PR strategy now. It is no longer like a thing that was sort of orbiting over here a little bit. Now it's like their reaction channels are getting whitelisted from PR agencies. It's now embedded in the thing because there's something. So first of all, you're tapping into YouTube subscriber lists that are outside of your domain, right? So that's a big one. Bless you. And and then on top of that, the human response to the reaction is an interesting thing because like we can listen to a piece of new music by ourselves and be amped about it, but when you listen to it with a friend, or when you're at the show together and like a fire moment happens on the kit and you react together, like it's very interesting that like I thought reaction channels were like really cringe when it started rolling out. I was like, why would anyone want, like it's so meta, it's so like self-aware but unself-aware at the same time. Like it was something that just didn't make me feel very good. And then now seeing the prevalence of them, and of course the quality of the production for these things has gotten better. And then the personality, some personalities I could take or leave, but certain ones I'm into and I like it and I value their opinion, and you can see the following that they're cultivating. So this is something that's absolutely new for publicity. And when it comes to like, if I'm doing the PR campaign for Nick's rollout, there's like 3 guys on YouTube right now immediately with big followings that absolutely would need to hear your music and would definitely do reactions to your stuff and have big followings. So I think about it right away and I'm like, I know exactly who I'm after. Right. So that's part of it. Then the other thing as well is teaming up with a PR company. That's another, I mean, that's what they do is they aggregate the ability to disseminate your material, from small outlets all the way to big outlets. And I mean, from what I've heard on your latest release, Nick, like that's Guitar World article worthy. That's Premier Guitar worthy. It's worthy of a shout out from all of these entities. You combine that with the reaction channel, and then you start using Instagram because I think it's a little easier to ride the algorithmic wave on Instagram to then start to build a little bit of momentum and then start funneling towards YouTube. Then when you get into YouTube, the algorithm there is about frequency and consistency of output. So then it's about having that reoccurring, I think that when a YouTuber starts or somebody who's taking it seriously, the weekly or bi-weekly upload is kind of important. It's funny because YouTube has always been a place where I just parked playthroughs. I just parked, the odd, live music video things that we've done like that there, and very infrequent output there. For us, we're making a more concerted effort towards documenting as much as we can this year. We always do. We document on tour, but we're about to go into the studio for 2 separate sessions to get the album over the course of the year. that all definitely needs to be captured. And we've got some big tours that we definitely want to immortalize there. A lot of the content that we shoot on the road is usually on, short to medium format, and it's Instagram, Facebook, etc. But that stuff needs to live on YouTube, and we need to have that frequency. So like, that's where I'm looking, is it's those types of things. And we're at a certain level, but you have notoriety within the space as well. It's about taking those same tactics and applying them to what you have going on, and really trying to call people back into the herd, so to speak. Bring people in. So yeah, that's where my head's at for modern, PR and stuff like that. As far as what Omar was talking about with bridging into things like, gaming placement and anime and things like that. It's something that's always been on our mind, but we've not ever really been able to act on it in too much of a strong way. There's a few entities that we work with that provide those types of opportunities. And I think back in 2014, the MLB network grabbed like 30 seconds of a tune from AVW and was running that. And that was like cool, but like, it didn't really do a whole lot for us. But a little bit of insider baseball. Oh, that was a good MLB insider baseball. Of the new record, I have somebody who's collaborating with me on a lot of the heavy lifting for sound design, and something that I've been really passionate about and trying to evolve is my ability to, I still don't, mix the final product or anything, but I've been putting a lot of love into pre-production over the years, to where if I showed a listener, like an avid intervals fan, like a pre-production demo and the final, they would actually maybe have a tough time discerning, other than like the fidelity of the mix, of course. But I really put a lot of work into those demos because I want them to feel as close to the vision as possible, so that everybody's on the same page when we go to make the stuff. But because I've been putting so much effort in, I don't want to throw a lot of these elements away. So I'm trying to get better at maintaining a lot of my own production elements and bringing them to the table when it comes to the album. And I've got a whole wall of synths, and that's been a passionate thing for me over throughout the quiet time in the pandemic and stuff. So with that, I'm a perfectionist. I take my time. These things happen slow, as I'm sure you know. So we've got tight timelines, and I have to stay competitive with the music that I'm making, and competitive to myself, that is. It's equal, if not better, every time we drop. So how do I do that, but do it faster, because touring is continuing to happen, and we have all this scheduling stuff we're trying to honor. So for me, I'm not too proud to say, you got to bring in some people from the outside. And I've done that in the last few albums. On the way forward, my buddy Owain from Norway, I'm sure you're familiar with Owain,
Yep.
plays guitar. He did a lot of, sound design and production stuff for me there. Last time was a little bit different. I had a friend basically do a lot of the heavy lifting on MIDI stuff, and then we took that and we shaped the sounds ourselves between myself and Sam, the engineer. This time, though, I wanted to bring in a heavy hitter. And so we're working with a guy from kind of in your guys' area, actually. He lives in Texas now, though. His name's Jesse Zaretti.
Yeah, I was just talking to him on Instagram yesterday. It's so funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
So
binary code, and George Lever, who's mixing Ever Forthright, sent him a couple. Sent him a couple demos of what he was working on. So Jesse reached out to me and was like, "Dude, I just heard some Ever Forthright demos. Like, what the fuck?"
Yes.
So that's
Jesse's great, and he's
very funny timing.
and it doesn't surprise me that you guys are chatting, because he's super passionate, and like, to be honest, he reached out to me as well. I think I had done some content for AL and the URM guys and Riff Hard and all that stuff, and I really like AL. Great character, just great person overall, and just like a really awesome dude to talk shop with on this side of stuff. And I think he had made mention to Jesse, so we didn't follow each other. I had a cold DM that I responded to, and it was one of the best things that I could have done for this project. But Jesse is the head of music at Marvel. So he, and he does, so he's in that world, and he's doing other things, a lot of gaming things and things like that. So there's a larger potential for translating the music, bless you, over to,
you heard that?
Oh yeah, we can hear all the sniffling and everything.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a little Foley for this podcast. So now you're good. There you go.
Good.
So basically, we're looking at opportunities to try to, potentially use some of that network and Jesse's connections to disseminate the material into that world, whether it's, rearranging the instrumentation and keeping the top line and the identity of a song, but using different instruments and a different attitude to try to take that and fit that into a given company's project, whether it's game or film or whatever, or using the music itself. Of course, that would be ideal, right? So this
Yeah.
is on our mind. That stuff keeps the lights on, and it allows you to reach new people, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a big next. That's a big step, and it seems like the next logical step once you've done so many things.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that'd be really cool. So, do you think it's the
So
kind of
that,
thing
yeah,
you would produce on your own, have the finished product, and say, "Hey, company XYZ, I have these finished tunes. Feel free to knock yourself out with any one of them," or do you think the company would want part in kind of? Well, I guess it could go either way. They could also probably want a part in whatever you're writing.
yeah. I mean, because we operate as like a traditional band that tours, and we have an arc to our cycles that, once I leave the studio and we start touring, like I can't be in both places at the same time. So it's not so much about like, hey, let's strike up a relationship. I'll make things for you. It's more so like the album exists, these songs exist. If you'd like to use a piece of the existing music or use it as is, please feel free to do so. If you like what you're hearing, you like the attitude of the identity of a particular song, like the top line or anything like that, but maybe distorted guitars are a little aggressive or the way the kit's mixed or something, like I am not opposed to tailoring those things to then suit a given,
To hear it at the
outcome or
beginning.
something.
Yeah, to hear it at the beginning of the next Justice League.
You're something like,
Yeah.
whatever it is, or some sort of something in the anime world, like whatever. I mean, I feel like the music lends itself to that.
Oh yeah, big
I
time. I could.
inadvertently I'm channeling that at most times anyway, because I grew up gaming. I'm in, like, I'm not passively like listening to or actively listening to like gaming music and stuff like that. But like when I hear, an OST from a game or any of the nostalgic stuff, like any of the old Sega cuts, specifically Sonic, things like that, like it just gets like a certain thing in my brain going where I'm like, this checks out, and I can hear it in my tunes too. Like, you have to know what to listen for, but like it's totally there, So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that's, we're just thinking about those kinds of things, just trying to like incrementally always get better. And for us, it's been about the slow burn, and I think that it's kind of better to have that like slow, steady trajectory in that arc, versus, releasing your magnum opus and never being able to top it. Cause then what do like
Yeah.
the journey is just kind of over there, or you're going to really like roil and toil over the next one, and it's going to be painstaking to try to do it. So I think it's all about just incrementally making those adjustments each time, continuing to do the thing that you do, and just, get better at it over time. So,
Yeah, yeah. If it's something I've learned just over the past couple of years is a slow, consistent burn.
hmm
However little progress you can make is
that's
better than
it.
it's better than a lot of things. I mean, obviously doing nothing is not any good, but also kind of hastily working in fast bursts doesn't really do anyone any
Yeah.
good. You're kind of offending your audience. You're annoying them.
Yeah. You're popping in and out like a
Probably,
weird X or something like that. It's like,
yeah, yeah. And I know people that I
oh,
know.
you again.
Yeah, and I know people that do that. I'm not going to say any names, but like like
Yeah.
here I am again. I'm back, and it's like, oh, like, well, I thought you just said you were
No,
back. What happened? You shouldn't
yeah,
ever need to.
exactly.
You shouldn't ever need to say you're back. Is my point.
No, it's yeah, and at the end of the day too, I think that like, and it's a weird thing for me to say because this is the means to my end, and I do it. This is how I provide for myself and everything. But like, it shouldn't be taken that seriously either. It's the kind of thing where you can just do it because you enjoy doing it, and if the hobby happens to pay the bills, then that's a bonus. If it's also just the hobby, then that's fine. These things don't necessarily define us, you know.
Oh yeah,
And
there's
the
loads
and
of. I'm learning more
yeah,
about the world of musicians that have some completely different full-time gig, but they make
Yep.
10 to 20 grand a year in passive side hustle income from their music, and that's fantastic. It makes them happy. I mean,
That's
you know,
fantastic.
yeah, I mean, and there's and that exists a lot in the jazz world, because jazz gigs can pay. You show up with your 1x10 and your guitar, and you play a gig for $1,000, and you go home. So and you're playing standards at a corporate event, so like that's a little bit more realistic in that, and well, that's one way to do it. Or like
Of course.
there's a handful of guys when the 55 bar was actually open that would, you don't know this guy, you don't know him from the internet, he probably doesn't even have an Instagram, but he absolutely rips. He rips on the guitar, and he does his corporate gigs, and he makes, or she makes a good chunk of money every year just
Yeah.
doing that thing. I don't know. So I guess, yeah, there is no rule book to this, and there's no one way to do it.
Definitely not.
Yeah. And all this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, is the variety of career you can have: the in real life career, the online only career. One guy
That's it.
I've recently kind of really started enjoying is Rabia Masad, and I know he's kind of a
Yeah.
big. Am I saying his name right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just been kind of catching up on what he's doing. I'm kind of new to his. I mean, maybe 3 months ago I was brand new to him, so I've been getting more familiar with it. But like the career that he has, I think is awesome. It's like part YouTube, part. I don't know how frequently he's playing shows anymore, but it looks like when he was playing shows, it was mostly around the UK,
Yep.
the UK area. He's doing some gear stuff. He could play. And and
yeah.
that's just one flavor of it. So when I think for myself, well, what does a career in music look to me, at least for the next 5 years? Because you're not necessarily signing a contract for the rest of your life. Things change. People change. You never know which way life is going to take you. But so this theme of this topic of the variety and different flavors of careers has been going through my mind a lot, and I'm seeing so much of it. And also, I mean, another one is like the Instagram masterclass guy, the guy that does not play live shows whatsoever, posts the daily 30-second clip of them absolutely ripping, and they sound great. And they sell their masterclass videos. Learn to play fast, learn to play melodic, learn to play jazz. There's no
And it's working.
It's absolutely working. Yeah.
It's absolutely working. I mean, yeah, I think we have the liberty now to make it what we want. I think that a lot of people get hung up on the idea that if they're not doing what, traditional Orthodox bands are doing, that they're not actually doing it themselves. But it couldn't be further from the truth, because there are a number of ways to do this, and I think that, intervals might be in a bit of a unique situation in the sense that, like, we engage in that type of activity, which I think puts the, sort of gives the perception that that's the thing. And it's not a facade. That is the thing. We tour with those bands. We do those things. Touring is something I'm passionate about. We keep a lot of wind in the sail to be able to, like a very healthy nest egg, to be able to act on those opportunities as, international things get crazy expensive, all this stuff, like I said, a few paces back, we're being more measured these days. Touring is a choice for an independent act. It's not the means to our end.
It felt like it was 10 years ago. It felt like
you had to, because
I think you had to. Yeah.
You had to. You couldn't click funnel through your link tree to your passive PDF that you make, $3,800 a month off of on the side for just posting a couple quick times, you couldn't do that back then. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on with Twitch now too. Like, it's funny. I only ever really see VODs and clips and like the after stuff on YouTube. I'm not a Twitch guy. I'm not on there consuming it in real time. But, so I could be misspeaking here, but like, I don't see a lot of guys giving like real time guitar lessons or seminars to where the chat is interacting and tipping and subscribing and doing all these things in real time, where like I know these guys, in other sectors, if you will, of the Twitch world, are making all kinds of money when they turn the camera on and stream for a couple hours doing various things. That could be something that somebody should look at. Now, I will say, as far as teaching guitar in real time to a moving chat and trying to interact there, or just basically giving an online seminar, it's very cerebral. As I don't have to tell you, like, teaching a 1 hour guitar lesson in any capacity can be quite draining. We're giving so much of ourselves, especially if you actually care. You give so much of yourself through the thing to the students. So that's a way to kind of do things. I mean, it's unbelievable what you see on Twitch, the type of stuff that people are doing and the kind of money that they're racking up. Like, weird niches, things that were born of the pandemic. Everyone got shut inside, and then all of a sudden there's all this interest in watching particular people do certain things. I mean, I'm a super nerd, and I've been doing the guitar thing for a long time. So for me, like, I went down the synth rabbit hole, and like for me, like, consuming that content, learning about that stuff, finding, who the key players are in that world, who those types of influencers are, how they're doing things and stuff, like that's very informative. But there's even weird stuff all the way down to, like, admittedly, like, to get super nerdy, like something that I discovered throughout the pandemic and have been kind of like tinkering with as of recent is building mechanical keyboards.
Interesting.
And it's very interesting. Some people watch people play chess. I'd rather watch paint dry.
Like these kind of keyboards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. And it's incredible what you can do with these types of things, and how actually it's very interesting. That is a productivity machine. And how you interface with people when you speak, and we do so much of this and you never think about it. And once I discovered that, I despise talking to anybody with my thumbs on the phone. For me, I'm a tactile guy. I want to touch stuff. It's why I have hardware in the room. And I also like to talk. I like conversing with people. I also am very detailed when I, for example, give Jesse production notes, or when I give the mix engineer production notes, or anything like that. Well, what do we do all day long? Should make it enjoyable. And then you realize that it's like musical gear, and that there's personalities in these spaces. And the reason I mention this is because there's dudes that are full-time streaming the building of these things and racking up money from people who are interested in watching guys talk about the various parameters of what goes into these things. It's just like guitar gear. It's just like that. And guys are making money. So, I think about that, and I'm like, well, there's definitely room for guys. Omar's really going through it. There's definitely,
sorry, man.
No, you're good. You're good. It's just interesting. There's just so much that can be done these days, and I think that the sky really is the limit. But it's not about like how many ways can I do the thing. I think it actually is rooted in what do I want from the thing, and what am I willing to give of me to that cause. And that determines what your bandwidth is for these types of things. At the beginning of this conversation, we talked about like getting in a van and doing all these things, like, and trying to run around and do the local thing. Like, that's definitely still how you have to do it. Like, much to the chagrin of both of our governments, like, the Econoline still exists. You can't buy one if you want one, and it costs way too much, and you can't find them in stock. But they're out there, and you can put expensive gas in the thing, and you can go give it a shot. But is that pragmatic? I think that, like, the internet is absolutely the tool. You can build the entire lore and the buzz from the internet alone. But you get offered one quality opportunity. Like, let's say you build this amazing hype around a thing, and the album does really great, and the rollout's all incredible, but you haven't done the first show yet. And then you get this opportunity to do this big festival, and if you haven't run around in the van doing all that stuff and finding yourself in the environment where you have to figure out how to behave and be organized and perform and execute that task, you are in for a rude awakening when you get to the venue for the festival, or you're outside behind like a line array in a field. If you've never done a club, you have no idea what you're about to do. You are going to absolutely show everybody that the whole thing is hot air.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a terrifying prospect to me. I thought we were going to see a lot of that coming out of the pandemic, because it's like, oh, guys are really like starting to build, a reputation and stuff. This is going to be pretty shaky when they figure out that they don't actually know how to do it live. And then what we ended up seeing was that a lot of people, got the memo that it's expensive to do that and it's kind of cumbersome. And like, when you think about what intervals does on paper, it's me plus 8 people at any time in a big box that guzzles fuel. And I have to pull a trailer full of expensive stuff that's like one-off pieces, like things that aren't insured, like things that I would cry about if they were gone forever.
Hmm.
I have to drag all of that, me and 8 humans, around the continent to be able to do that
Thousands,
thing. It sounds, yeah,
thousands of miles.
it sounds insane. When you
Yeah,
say
it
it out
is.
loud, it sounds like you're a crazy person for trying to do it. Then you look at the DJ or the jazz guy with the 110 and the hollow body getting paid. His or hers, return, the cost benefit analysis there, the return on investment is so much stronger to be able to
Yeah.
just do that and
It's like,
not have
oh,
the overhead. I have,
yeah, I paid
yeah,
two and change to hop on the subway. I got paid $700, and I was in bed before 11 p.m.
it rules, dude. It
Yeah.
absolutely rules. Like this is, yeah, it's just kind of nuts.
Well,
But
that's
we
why I
come
think
from that
about.
older world, so
Yeah, yeah, and that's why really thinking about what I want for. I keep on saying for myself, but I think there's probably a lot of musicians in my shoes where they want music to be a part of their life, and uh, I mean, music is a part of my life. I guess if you are really passionate about it, though, you always want to figure out, well, what's next. So this
mhm,
this could be the very same conversation I have with myself in 10, 15, 20 years from now.
of
So,
course.
but it's really prevalent in my thoughts these past couple of years. And I've tried some things. I've tried teaching online, and I don't think that's for me. But I'm seeing, more local bands doing we're committed to the East Coast, we're committed to the New York area, we're committed to New England, and these bands sell out those venues. They're the weekend warriors that go play for
Oh yeah.
a 250 cap venue in Rhode Island, and then they on a Friday, and then Saturday they play a 250 cap venue in Brooklyn, and they're selling them out, in both places, and that's awesome. That's really really awesome. And
It can be what you want from the thing.
yeah,
Again, that's like, if that's the capacity at which you wish to operate, and you're satisfied there, and it's, again, nobody's going out of pocket to do these things, as long as you're coming home with something and making it worth it for yourself. Not that money is the impetus for the thing or the motive for the thing, but we can't be. I think when you're younger, we can invest. And my goodness, I'm sure you guys did too in those early days. And I went out on a limb at the very beginning to get this thing off the ground. And, I think when we're younger, we have the bandwidth and the room to do those things. But as we get older and we have responsibilities and things like that, it's not so much feasible to consider going out and doing it for nothing, or for putting your own money in the gas tank and coming back less off than you were when you started. So, that's not really the model. So it's all just about what gives you joy from the thing. Anything outside of that is a byproduct, I think. And if there is some opportunity there, then you just figure out how to cultivate that for yourself in a way that still allows you to be satisfied, but also maybe make a little passive. If it's 20, 30 racks a year just from having music on Bandcamp and some Spotify and stuff like that, like, and you're working a job as well, providing everything's cool, she's happy, the kids are happy, it's good. That's fine. Like, that's totally good. And you can have the big flashy internet persona and really put emphasis on your content and make it look a certain way, and people will think you're larger than life. You can live that life without
yeah,
having to actually do all that stuff. I talk to a lot of guys who spend more than half their year on tour. It's wild. I've done the 160 show years. It's mental. It's crazy. I couldn't imagine having a child at home and having to do that. That doesn't make sense to me. That's arena level. That's where, like, the crew is 5 times the size of the band, and they've got name tags on dudes on walkie-talkies looking like your dad. That's the
Yeah.
type of shit where you can go on tour and have kids at home, or you can
Yeah,
fly the
you're
family
flying.
out.
Yeah, you're flying them. You're going home on the weekends, or the kid is homeschooled on the tour bus, some crazy shit like that.
That's a whole
Yeah.
other thing. But I mean, listen, we're still out there. We do it in a bus, but we're still out there just doing it like we kind of always did. Like off days, we're at a KOA at a RV park, like grilling and using the Instant Pot and just like hanging out, terrorizing the family next to us who's just trying to enjoy their little Arizona Christmas getaway, and we're just like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
so
so
funny because
yeah.
Omar was bringing around the Instant Pot like years ago to make rice and stuff, and I was like, "That is not
I
Rockstar,
remember.
man. That is not Rockstar."
Oh.
And
Oh, but it is though.
it is, but it is. It absolutely is. Like, don't do the Instant Pot in the venue parking lot. Maybe don't let the fans see the Instant Pot. But there's an Instant Pot on that bus.
Listen, we get to cooking on tour, and it's great. My front house engineer Chase is very passionate about cooking, and like there's like freezer packed, pre-prepared, marinated meats that are coming into the freezer and in the bus and stuff. Like, so like we're 3 weeks into tour, and Chase is like, "You guys want to make some shawarma?" Like he's pulling out like all, what I mean? Like it's unbelievable. That's the best way to be, I think, and like we like to have fun like that and keep it a little bit more, grassroots and feeling that way. We don't have those luxuries afforded to us when we do international ventures. Right before COVID, we were in India for 4 shows, including a festival. That was one of the craziest things we've ever done. 2018, we co-headlined a festival in South Africa. That was absolutely bonkers. Johannesburg is insane. We did 21 cities in 24 days, from Singapore to Wellington, New Zealand, including most of Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, all that stuff. Slept for 4 hours a night for an entire month straight. I still haven't recovered from that. That stuff is nuts. You're underfed, you're dealing with crazy schedules that no human should ever do. You're doing this all with a migraine because you're just running around living in airports and stuff. And, that's a whole other thing. You have to really love the thing to care that much to do that and subject yourself to that. But, when we're at home, we try to just keep it chill. We've been on this, like, we just do a few tours a year kind of thing. We're going to ramp up a little bit more. I mean, of course, COVID sort of stunted things a little bit, but, we are gearing up to go hard again. Thought we were going to maybe just like do an EP this year and just kind of keep the machine moving that way. Instead, what we've decided is there's no rush on putting out music, especially if we want to top everything we've ever done. So we're going to go next month. I leave in about 3 weeks. We're going to go track the first 5 songs for a new record. Then we go straight into tour. So walking and talking at the same time. This is the first time I've ever gone to start recording a body of work and then pause to tour, which should actually give me some added perspective, I think. When I come home, I've got about three months to get the next 3 or 4 songs composed and then go back into the studio for the summer. So we'll see what that yields. We'll see if going on tour and getting that mid-album inspiration and pausing and listening to the first 5 songs and asking myself, what does the record need? Like, I've never had that opportunity before. So we're going to do that. And then some more touring later in the year. And then gear up for, start to roll out towards the end of the year, and then 24 is going to go, so that's when we're really going to start leaning into it. And lots of touring this year still, but I still want to go hard. I mean, there's only so many years while you can, before more responsibilities happen, or before maybe you fall out of love with the idea of subjecting yourself to those grueling schedules and things like that. But that's, this is a great way to tie that in. I mean, that's when you can shift and say, what do you want from the thing, being an independent artist, if you own all of your music on all platforms, I mean, man, that should keep wind in the sail for a really long time. And all that you need to do to put the defib on that and get it going again is just a new drop every once in a while. People start to find your back catalog, they find your new stuff, everything gets a resurgence. You can constantly have that passive on the side. That's the music side of things. Then we have the luxury, of course, being in our world, to have derivatives of the music that regular artists don't, like tab books. Tab books are incredible. The notation and being able to sell your tablature is one of those things that is a huge part of our fiscal backbone. Our relationship with Sheet Happens is enormous. They also do our vinyls, and the resurgence for the interest on vinyl has also been incredible. So you combine those physical assets with the traditional things like soft merch and things like that, plus owning the music. Well, that paints a really nice picture there. And then you start to do things like collaborating on physical products. There's a bunch of them in here. You can buy these in places. That's helping out big time, amongst other things that are planned and stuff. So it really just depends on, diversifying the groundwork you want to lay. And then for me later, am I going to tour forever? I don't know. Am I passionate about live shows? Do I want to do it as long as I can? Yes. Do you have to be smart at some point and maybe sort of shift your focus? Sure. But if you lay a really diverse sort of, foundation for the thing, you should be able to toggle. And in fact, with how expensive touring is, when you reduce that overhead, things might even look a little better, to be honest. So, it's just, we're all thinking about the same things, I think. I think you do, you said it yourself, Nick, like you've got this hybrid thing where you're coming from like, with where I was when we started intervals, and it was like literally, I remember like around the first shows, like flyering telephone poles and having a MySpace, but also doing the internet at the same time. And now the internet is certainly superseding the physical thing. But what you have, a lot of these guys have that, that don't have, I should say, the dudes with the really fancy content who are click funneling for their PDF or their courses or whatever. What you have is lived experience, and what you have is the ability to communicate live with other artists. Like nobody can take that from you, and they can't build that because it's just skin in the game. It's just the amount of time that you've been doing it. That will show. So when it comes time to shoot some live videos or to take it live and people start posting that on the internet, or you start generating some well shot content from that or whatever, and showing people like the difference, that speaks for itself. And like you said, 90% of the thing is making sure that the tunes rule, and how you're delivering the tunes rule. And then everything else from there is just tuning and playing around with like how to sort of disseminate that. But the music always supersedes the art. Fundamentally will always supersede the thing, even in the conversation about AI, this nonsense that's going on. No, it can't think like a human. It's a tool. Listen, generating random chord progressions, random rhythms, maybe in the very infant stages of developing a composition, because we all know I could walk in here and be like, all right, it's time to go. Like, I got the bug, I feel good. And then you just get option paralysis because you're like, which one do you so that to me is like not productive. So a lot of the time it starts with a really small element and something that didn't necessarily come from your brain. I find myself to be proactive, but also very reactive. So if I hear something that I like, and it doesn't have to be guitar related at all. For example, there's a song on the new record that literally came from a shaker in 5. And I was like, dope. And I just built an entire track around the feeling of this thing. You leave that identity in throughout the song as well. Even if it's just to remind me that, like, how I got here, but listening to something and feeling that and reacting to it, so that's where something like AI comes into play. But will it ever do all the things that we're talking about? Absolutely not. It's not possible to perform and think like a human, or to, to make those decisions that go into making like a piece of Nick Llerandi music. Not possible. AI can't do that.
Yet.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't have high hopes for it to be quality anyway, or for you to feel something from it.
Well, hopefully, like, innovations in the metaverse will make touring easier. You just slap on some goggles and
metaverse nonsense. I feel like old man yelling at cloud all the time. Like, I definitely feel like mad boomer when this stuff comes up. But
yeah. I feel like that all the time. Most of these episodes I do with Omar, I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Fuck that. Yeah.
No, man. Like, I'm with you. And I think it's all perspective, It's just like, I think we know what it takes to get the thing going and to get everybody in the van, to book the shows, to do the thing. And like, there's just no appreciation from the kids for the craft. They don't understand what it took in the early days to get it here. People are just, for example, discovering intervals now because they saw, I don't know, a shout out from, Wolfgang Van Halen in a Guitar World article, and then I'm like this new thing that, oh wow, yeah, like this is so interesting, but they don't go all the way back to 2009 and
This guy
figure
came
out
out of
like, oh
nowhere.
yeah, it's like you think I just, oh yeah, I'm just figuring it out, like I bought all this shit yesterday, dude, what do I do with it? It's not like that, right? And I think that there's like a lot of disrespect for the craft and the sacrifice that goes into the thing, which is like why I feel justified in that sort of boomerish take about like you don't even know, like,
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
popular and riding a TikTok algorithm or something and getting a bunch of views is fine, but like, please, by all means, play the show. Let me see what you have. Like, let me see how that
Yeah,
works out
yeah.
for you.
Yeah, we were talking about that a
You
little bit
know,
earlier. I was talking to Javier Reyes, I don't know, 5 or so months ago, and he was like,
that's the homie.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, he was like, yeah, we had some band. I had already forgotten their name, but I wouldn't say it anyway. That absolutely smoked it online. Had some great videos, but
Yep.
we took them out of their controlled environment and brought them on tour, and it was absolute local band vibes the entire tour, and they could not sound like a professional touring band after
Yep.
30 back-to-back shows. They just couldn't do it. They needed
Yep.
more time. They weren't ready for a tour with us. um
That's it.
and I think that's yeah, and we mentioned that before, like the canned artists getting asked to play a festival and um being in for that rude awakening. So I don't know, maybe the moral of the story is like, I don't know, what is the moral of the story? If you don't bite off more
The
than
moral of the
you could
story
chew.
No, the moral of the story is that we see all these conversations about what's next and AI and algorithms, and the moral of the story is it's hogwash.
Hmm.
Is that nothing is ever going to beat that feeling of seeing the artist live, and you cannot hone and cultivate that from this room or that room through the screen. It's not a thing. You can go on tour with Animals as Leaders for 30 days and maybe incrementally get better by show 30. Maybe you had something resembling what a professional band, how the professional band loads in, sets up on time, gets off stage and clean and clear of the headliner in time for their set, is packed up, everything's in the trailer. You could figure it out by show 30, but you need to go home and you need to like put your head in your hands and get the pencil out next week after you've decompressed and figure out how we're going to do it better, and then go on another one and fail again and do that for like 8 years
Yeah.
before you get to a level that even resembles anything that you see when you buy the ticket and you go to the show and you see these incredible bands. And then the unsung heroes of that entire thing is not even the band, it's the crew. It's
Yeah.
the crew. So, a lot of the time it comes down to that stuff and building that team behind the scenes and everything. And everything I'm talking about has nothing to do with this. Absolutely nothing to do with any of that. It's all about human interaction. It's about the interaction between musicians. It's about the etiquette between your touring party, or even if it's a one-off show, just the people that you choose to bring. You know,
And it's funny
they,
how
they
you say, this merely facilitates interaction, but it
it doesn't
doesn't
build
replace it.
character.
It doesn't replace it at
No,
all.
it doesn't at all. And like, this has been talked about before. My pal Rick Beato has done multiple videos on this because he's close with him. But he highlighted, Mateus Asato stepping away from the internet during the pandemic, and being very, very transparent about the fact that he set the bar too high for himself. We all see, and I don't have to explain it to you guys, but for people that don't know, like how many takes goes into getting the clip, and the painstaking nature to which you go to execute on that, and also the level that he's trying to achieve. These one take, seemingly perfect chord melody things and stuff. Like he painted himself into a corner. Now, he's also the guitarist in Silk Sonic and for Bruno Mars at this point, so bravo. And Mateus is an absolute sweetheart. I've met him times, and he's just a great guy and an incredible musician. Can't take any of that away from him. But he was the first to admit, I sort of set the bar. A lot of people are emulating this on Instagram. They saw that you can, garner a following just through making that type of content. But there's two things there. You're not You're not spending the time doing it in the real world, and you're also not Mateus Asato. So, you don't have his trajectory, but none of this stuff is determined by what's going on through the device, aside from this inherent feeling of validation. That's all that's really going on there. Yeah, yes, you're spreading the word. Okay, you're getting some feedback. You get a little dopamine hit when the comments start rolling in and the likes start rolling in and stuff. But none of that makes the live show quality.
Yeah.
And if you don't care at all, you never plan to play live, then that's fine. But I think that really, to go all the way back, the art always has to come before the a concept of content. If you just want to make content, then it's really interesting to me that you decided that this was how you were going to do it. These tools, this type of thing, it's like trying to eat a steak with a spoon. I'm like
Yeah.
totally confused by the concept of, like, if you want to make content, there's so many other ways to just generate content. If all you want to do is put yourself and your words or your ideas or certain things on the internet, like, I mean, I guess I'm taking away the idea that people, maybe have decided that they don't want to play, or maybe they don't have access to people. That's another thing as well that we do hear all the time, especially when I get asked, like, I'm from a small town, I really love playing. I go to like a jam night at a bar and stuff. I'm like, I get to jam with my dad's friends and stuff, but like, there's nobody that like knows about, any of the bands that we're into or the kind of music. And I can't get anyone to play on my level and stuff. So like, look, I can appreciate that musicians still need to have an outlet. If the internet is that means to an end, then that's fine. But there's a lot of people online parading as, I'm the consummate musician. But
that's
you
the
pull them
masterclass
away from Instagram.
That's the masterclass thing I was talking about. Was
Yes.
like you're really telling me you're trading solos right now with this other guy, like
through exactly.
and both of your takes are like Chick Corea and Michael Brecker, quality like lines and stuff. Like, come on, how rehearsed is this? It's not real. It'll make you sick after a while if you get too hung up on it, because
I can't watch half the stuff that's going on because thinking about the mechanics of things, I'm going deeper than what I'm seeing on the surface. I'm like, how long did this take to make? Exactly. Like, how did you interact? Like, did this take you 3 weeks of leaving each other Dropbox files? Like, that is the most soft way to collaborate. Unless that's the goal. Like, I'm literally doing it now with remote musicians to make my record. That's how Jesse and I are doing the thing. Literally minutes before I jumped on this podcast, I just packed 20 gigs of audio into a freaking Dropbox for the guy.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the thing, but I'm also creating composed, calculated art that it lives on these platforms eternally and is consumed on vinyl and things. And we're curating those moments. That's a different thing. But when you watch the video of the the dude with the vertical angle and there's two people over their shoulder and they're doing this kind of thing, and then another guy pops in and they're doing, it's like that. It's like a choreographed flash dance scene.
Yeah.
It's not music.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You know who's
Definitely
doing...
sounded like the old guy now.
I know we both are a little bit, but what can you do about it? Ariel Posen is a guy who is not doing that, and I really like his playing a whole lot.
That's one of the best out there doing it right now.
Yeah. I gotta piss.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead,
brother. Thank you so much for coming on, man. This is
great. Yeah. No, I'm happy to do it. And Nick sent me new tunes a few days ago, and I've had them on repeat, and it's ridiculous. This shit is so good, and I can't wait for you to have Report Rate. That's another thing. Oh my god. Yeah, man. No, it's crazy. It's crazy that it's been 10 years. That's so wild.
Dude, that tour was so much fun. That was such an experience.
That's everything we're talking about right now, man. That shit builds character, dude. You got to go out there and literally play at the Red Dog Bar in Peterborough, Ontario for nobody. For nobody, dude. And then stay at that crazy fool's house afterwards. That's the stuff that made us, It's so weird now, so different. Like we're getting after this studio session, we're going out to do like a tour that's just it's so insane to me that we're even a part of it. And, like we're about to tap into like the more mainstream sort of metal audience. I mean, it's so crazy that when I think about it and I'm like so hyped to tour with Spirit Box. Oh, that's so crazy. Like I'm even buying into the hype a little bit. Which they 100% deserve. I mean, I've known Mike Courtney forever. Like but what I mean by that is like, like I know them as regular people, and then to see what they've built is so powerful. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I keep forgetting After the Burial's on the tour, and it's like that
Right.
alone would have
Yeah,
been
yeah,
put
yeah.
me over the top, like so crazy so long ago, and now it's like
Have the
to
dates
be
been
able to
announced for
do it
that
with
yet?
both of them. Oh yeah, dude! It went on
Okay.
sale last year and sold out in 10 days. Entire
Oh
tour
wow.
sold out in 10 days. We have two nights at Irving. Yeah, I'm excited though.
Yeah, I spent a month with After the Burial when I was filling in with the Heart Machine, and even before that,
Mm.
they were one of my favorite bands to see live. Like, even 10 years ago, I felt like their live sound was just always so in the pocket.
Incredible.
I was just like, this
Like
is the
like a
meanest.
more yeah, like a more agile and like athletic, like sharpened version of Meshuggah, which is crazy to say, but it's almost
Yeah.
like it's like a faster, more like quick and spry take on that thing. But then you throw in all the like, almost neoclassical shred type stuff on top, and it's just
Yeah,
like
which is fine for me. That's not even the thing that like they're just their tone and their pocket
the
is just
yeah,
so like
exactly. The rhythmic choices and the tone.
yeah, and I don't think they're even reinventing the wheel with anything. It's just good. They're just good. We drove out to see them. Me, Billy, and Jared drove out to see them in Reading, Pennsylvania, one day to see Periphery, and Periphery didn't wasn't there because their van broke down. This is like when Periphery. I don't even think their first CD came out yet. This was like them on the road, just kind of getting their feet wet. And they were opening for After the Burial, and After the Burial came on, and I think it was probably all of our first time seeing them live, and we
Yep.
kind of looked at each other and were like, "Why is this the best metal show I've ever seen?"
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no, I've got to experience them a lot. And funny enough, the first time I ever saw Periphery, ATB was also on that tour. That was the Thrash and Burn tour. I think it was like 2009 or
Wow, wow.
2010 summer run. Yeah, it was the first time we all met and everything, which is crazy. Intervals was like literally a demo on my old MacBook. It's like one song. So crazy back then.
Wow. Your those first videos you have on there, was it 2 million views for that video? Can you
I don't
get two
even know.
million? Yeah, I think your first the first I think
Probably
your
still
first
winning playthrough. Yeah.
yeah, your main playthrough that you did years and years ago is over
Hmm.
2 million views, and I was just like,
It's
fuck.
insane. It's insane. Now the algorithms changed so much. I mean, even massive YouTubers now, like if you look at like the big podcasts and stuff that hit with that frequency and that have that avid following, um,
That's a tough number to get now.
it's tough. I mean, the million club within about a week or two is like very tough to attain. I'd say the average well performing video now sits somewhere between 100 to 300,000 likes, or sorry, views.
Views, yeah.
Um, Likes are way lower. Not that I don't even know how much that stuff matters, other than just telling the algorithm that you fuck with it, basically. But it's the game has changed so much, so much. Um, and YouTube's serious. It's very serious stuff. If you want to take it seriously, that is. The level of content and the frequency. For me, it's like I've actively not leaned into doing putting myself on the hook to deliver YouTube videos, like whether it's educational or just like anything. Like it's very easy for me to turn a camera on and walk around and talk about gear and stuff in here with people. And there's a lot of people that request for that stuff all the time. Would there be a viewer base for that? Yes. Do people want to consume that? Yes. But I think like my time is precious to me, and like I don't like care so much to like have this like voyeuristic window into the thing. I think that like the allure and anonymity of like the musician is sort of like kind of being neutralized by like there are characters that do it and they do it well. They're very passionate about it, and you can see that it's definitely translating. To use an example, like Matt Hafey from Trivium is like the top like metal and music streamer personality on YouTube, or sorry, on Twitch. He has a partnership there. There's also intersection with the gaming world, and I'm sure they're banned for a really long time. He's got a diverse following, and he's the kind of guy that seems to be completely fine with the idea of practicing for the tour with multiple cameras on him and a microphone in his face. For me, that's not how I sharpen my blade. I also don't like the concept of writing in front of anybody. I think that if I was to do something like that, it would largely be conversational based. It would be more of a just chatting kind of thing, or maybe opening some new gear or something on stream. Nothing that's been given to me to review, nothing sponsored, things that I'm passionate about that I'm acquiring myself. Or if it's something that was, given to me, I'd be transparent about that. And we can talk about that because I'm passionate about gear and I like to get nerdy with stuff. So like, that's fine. But it would all be as little or as much as I want to do about the things that I want to do. And it's absolutely not going to be a window into my process unless I bring a videographer into the studio and we make a concerted, calculated documentary to show the things that I want you to see. But I don't want the entire process to be exposed, not because I don't want to see everybody, or I don't want everyone to see me toiling over mistakes or looping the same part 30 times. Everybody knows that that's what's going on. I just don't feel like I'm working my best when I know you're watching me. And that if you want good music from me, I got to do it with the door closed.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason I stopped doing lessons.
Interesting.
Like YouTube lessons, not private lessons.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't feel like I need to tell everyone, what's like what my process is. It kind of I think it devalues my music. People can hear, I hear some inspiration in that line he played in that new song from a YouTube video he did 3 months ago.
Yes, and the kind of listeners we have think about these types of things. So if you give them too much, they will think about it.
Yeah, it takes the fun out of it. So.
Strongly agree.
Yeah. Also, there was a part of me after a while that just kind of said, like, I'm a guitar player. My main
Educator.
goal here is not education. I just want to play music. I want to play my art. So
that's the same thing for me too. And teaching is something that I am passionate about. I basically, used it to fill in the gaps when I went from working a retail job to touring a little bit and not really knowing how to like survive that way. Teaching was 100% important. And, I'll still do things like, in the context of whether it's a clinic or a VIP on tour, sometimes we'll do more of like a lesson based kind of thing or like a workshop masterclass kind of based type thing. Or, if it's like a video lesson series or something where I can sit down for a few days with a camera crew and we're like making a specific thing, I'm fine with those types of things. Personally, though, generating like educational content or doing the one-on-one stuff, I struggle with it now only because, I don't know, I just, for me, it's always been about just the art. I just, and I like a little bit of mystery, man. I don't know. Like, I like and I've given a lot of what goes on in my head out there. It's on the internet. You can buy lesson bundles. You can go back and see all kinds of things on YouTube where people have clipped my live streams where I'm doing candid things, and it's up there. You can find that stuff. But I love the idea of like finding a band or even a band that I'm well acquainted with, listening to the material and asking myself the questions of how did they arrive at these types of things. What's going on behind the scenes? I don't want to know all the tricks, And then there's an argument that gets made a lot of the time for people who do, like, for example, music production lessons and things like that, or like tutorial videos where especially from prominent artists, where they're showing you how to get like, here's my signature synth sound, or like, here's my thing, and they're like, here's how to do this like edit or vocal chop or whatever. And you're like, damn, you're really going to give that away? But then the argument is, if I give it away, I have to outdo it, and I have to continue keeping, I have to keep evolving. And I like really respect that. But then at the same time, I'm just like, you have to be wired for that. Mm-hmm. That's a whole, I think that the creation of music is personal. I don't want everyone to hear all the little bits that went into it. I want you to hear the finished product because I'm presenting you what I'm proud of, and I want you to like take it in and then ask yourself all of those questions yourself,
Yeah. I don't think authors really do the same thing. Like, the guy that wrote Game of Thrones, I don't think he's saying like, click here to see how my method for writing
Yeah.
character relationships. Like you just enjoy it, and you're kind of blown away by the fact that someone actually completed a work like this. And I'm
Yeah. I
yeah.
just had a really funny thought about thinking about like I don't know, pick like an old eccentric author or something like Stephen King would be too obvious, but pick like who wrote Fear and Loathing?
Fuck if I know.
Um, what's his? Oh, it's gonna bother me now. Hunter S. Thompson. So imagine like a modern day YouTube masterclass, or like some sort of these like paywall masterclasses from like an old like you could even insert like Lenny Bro or something like this, like a old jazz head or something, and it's just like, okay, here's the formula, kids. Just ruin every relationship in your life. Get a heroin addiction. Live in this hotel room. This is the 3-step process to like creating genius works is just like be
It'd be
miserable and
miserable.
like
Yeah.
completely, you know what I mean? Like that's the masterclass on pay to see.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. When we had Thomas Griggs on here, I was like, "Why do we do this?" And he's like, "I don't know, masochism." But
Right? Yeah, I listen to the Griggs podcast.
yeah,
Actually, I love Griggs, man.
yeah, yeah.
It's so
I think
crazy how he came into the fold with us too. It's insane. Like I met him through Tosin. I needed somebody to jump in the saddle. He came and did some North American touring. He came to Mexico. We did Mexico City, Monterrey, Guadalajara together. Um, and I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying, but like Thomas is a great example of a dude who like gigs, knows a ton about how to interact with musicians in the real world, also knows how to turn a camera on and do his thing as well. But when he came into the context of like, performing with Jacob and Nathan and with myself and like learning how to, he 100% honors the parts, treats the music with respect. My material is so below his like it's crazy how overqualified. I always made the joke like between Thomas and Jacob, like a couple of Berkeley grads. Dude's got a high school education. This is insane to me. You guys are so overqualified for this gig. It's crazy. But like, there was some things that, Griggs like was learning about touring, and like his first tour with us is in a bus, and he's like, this is
yeah,
mine. Like, this is, I put my things here. Like, this is crazy. Like, and we always clown him for how quiet he is, and he's like just trying to like figure it out. And then, you see him get comfortable with it. You see him get comfortable on stage. I'm like, oh, tonight must have been a good show. Thomas moved. It's okay. All right. He's moving.
yeah.
All right. Very
Takes
good.
I could see that. That takes a lot of practice, and
He had to
especially
figure it out.
yeah, yeah.
It's different.
So who's making the big bucks in this genre of music? Not necessarily like a person or an artist, but like the booking agents, the record labels, or whatever is left of
Oh,
them, the venue. Like if I wanted to legit be making $1 million a year in
oh,
hard
it ain't
rock,
this side.
yeah,
It ain't,
it ain't this side. No.
it ain't this side. It ain't
Yeah,
all the way down
I,
here.
I think so. I'll make a guess. I think
That's
it's
funny.
I think it's the who do I think it is? I think part of it is the highly successful YouTube guy.
Hmm.
I think that's part of it.
As
Who
far as on the
is
artist level, or personality level. Yeah.
well? I'm thinking like if I could come like not that these either. I have no idea if either of these guys are making loads of money, but I'm just going to say I feel like a part of the puzzle would be having an Ola, Rick Beato, Rabia sized YouTube channel would be one piece, and I
Yeah.
think
Absolutely. You've nailed it there. Yeah.
that's probably 75% of the pie. You think, or no?
Uh, Rick is eating pie. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that type of stuff, absolutely, because the intersection between roots sort of growing into our niche, like where we are, and like pulling people from that world, but then also like the wide range. Like Rick is like one of those unicorns where it's just like his demographic is like 0 to 100,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he satisfies everybody from young kids getting into music all the way up to my dad, because
Hmm.
who is like very particular about the kind of things that he's into, but learned of Rick through the content that I've made with him and being on his YouTube channel and stuff like that. And then he the algorithm starts serving my dad some Rick Beato content, and then it's like Larry Carlton, Pat Metheny, Steve Lukather, sold, done. it's in the bag. Like you get those 3 interviews, and it's just like this is like eternal just worship to the man, So he's able to really satisfy like a lot on various fronts, and with something like that, leads to, of course, just there's just more water in the well, man. I mean, he's generating YouTube content, making AdSense revenue. I mean, dude, it's public. You can go on Social Blade right now and check out Rick Beato, see what's going on, and that doesn't tell you the full picture, but it tells you enough to know that.
What is this? What is Social Blade?
The pie is in abundance. Oh, Social Blade. Oh, yeah, rabbit hole. Social Blade is where you can go check content creators and see how much it estimates on average their Google AdSense account is paying them, how
Oh,
much the YouTube ads is
fuck.
paying them. Yeah, if you want to feel good or bad about things, you can go to socialblade.com. This podcast is sponsored by Social Blade, where you can develop an inferiority complex for free on the internet. But yeah,
45,000 a month in estimated monthly earnings.
yeah, that's not accurate, by the way. Those numbers are definitely just under. But yeah, and that doesn't speak to the entire picture of things. But that's a way to
Yeah.
go. I mean, you can go look at PewDiePie and see like how much like one of the OG YouTubers is pulling in. But again, I don't know how accurate these things are, but it's all there. So,
Damn.
but like to speak to sort of the main part of the question. It is the industry players, like the booking agents, managers, guys like that. That listen, that's hard work. Being a booking agent makes my head spin. I interface with our agent enough to know that it's insane to me that he would do this for 10 clients at a time, 15 clients, whatever. That's just crazy. Especially if you have like really popular, very frequent, touring acts. Like it's a lot, but they deserve what they earn. Comes with its perils. Management would be the same thing. That would be scalable based on the caliber of artists that you're representing, the breadth of artists that you're representing. So how many, the activity for each individual client. Like my manager does intervals, Protest the Heroes, Silverstein, August Burns Red. The drug church, Belmont, other things in the pop punk world, 4 Year Strong. This is one man. That's crazy. So, and the crazy thing is, if I text him, he'll text me right back, and that's insane. Like
Wow.
if I'm like, hey, do you have a PSD file of the logo from 2015? It's like boom. It's like, how is that even possible?
What's his name
So
again? What's his name
those
again?
guys, Richard Fernandez.
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was
Yeah.
yeah, gotcha.
Tandem management.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so like guys like that are definitely worth their weight in gold if they're earning, 0% of zero is zero. So it's commission based work. So you gotta make it work. And I have a lot of respect for that side of things. As an independent artist who is the sole entity that interfaces with management in this particular arrangement, I totally know what Rich is up to. I have crazy ideas. He muscles them into place. He tells me when I'm losing it or when, no, you're on track, whatever. So like that stuff's really important. And streaming platforms, man, they're the ones that are eating. They're eating big time. I notice I didn't say labels. I think there's still a place for it, but it just depends on the act. I think that intervals is in a place now. For example, just to use my operation as an example, we would have to get more in an advance from a label than they would be willing to give us, and it would still not be enough to. I would be making a trade for effectively just getting a lump sum up front, and giving away the ability to generate future revenue, obviously depending on the terms of anything. But to me, it would be like a cost benefit analysis on, do you just want to see a bunch of cash up front and then not worry about what it could have made? Or do you want to work it yourself? And, from the very beginning, we've always made the decision to abstain from that relationship with any given entity. And if I look at the numbers that were being offered back in 2014, 2015, and I look just at that record in particular, how much it made in its first year versus how much it's generated in the catalog over time, absolutely insane. I would have hung myself.
Yeah. So
No,
what label would
just to get real dark.
what size label would need to come to you now for it to actually make sense? Like J Lo's label or something?
No, no, not even. It could absolutely be a Rise or a Sumerian, a Metal Blade, any of these types of things. But it's all about the quality of the deal. It's all about the
Mhm.
quality of the deal and the human beings behind said deal who have the complete and utter devotion to work it in a way that you are convinced they care as much as you do, and that's like pretty
Rare to
it's
find.
asking a lot from very rare, because if you're not a hot young band who they know sky's the limit with, um, it's a weird thing. Could a label get a for sure return on investment for like intervals? Absolutely. Are we a good bet? Yes. Do I need that capital though? No. So why would I take it when we are constantly self-funded at a high level? And literally keep the lights on of our own volition. So, I don't need, unless it was a number that really made me sit up straight and reevaluate my reality. And that would be more than they're willing to offer. Again, we're a slow burn, long play trajectory act where I think that, it's all about laying a foundation for the future, as far as it pertains to us and the people in our orbit, and not so much. We do all the same things a label does. I'm hiring the same PR company the big label's working with. Had that conversation last week. They're choosy. It's kind of the cool kids club sometimes with things like that. I went into that conversation thinking that maybe they don't care so much. Maybe they need to be educated, and turns out they're fans, really excited they heard from us, want to work the project, happy that we have that type of reputation now, but early on, not so much, I don't know. It's interesting, but labels don't come to mind when to get back to the original question. Labels don't necessarily come to mind when it's like who's making the money. Yeah, I guess. I mean, my model in my brain, like, it doesn't really compute with me. I'll use a colleague and a peer as an example. Plinny's doing the same thing. And that was the beginning of him getting his thing off the ground, and he's geographically challenged being from Australia. Everything costs way more to make moves when you're from all the way down there. Um, this is why we shared a band for those tours. This is why the Plurals thing existed in 2016, was, to be able to facilitate bringing Plenty to North America for the first time. So giving a homie a leg up and, making it a little bit more financially viable to execute on something like that. And then on top of that, uh, you know, it definitely helped us too. We were able to symbiotically tackle a lot of the overhead together, and we got to play a ton of material on that Plintervals Animals run. I think we did about 18 songs before Animals would take the stage on that tour, because collectively between both of our acts. So we're getting, we're shedding,
Mhm.
we're sharpening the blade live. We're helping each other carry the thing. And then from there, once that year ended, it was like 2017. We did a summer co-headliner in Canada with Northlane, and that was the first time where Intervals was like, okay, now we're in the bus, we're fully on our own here. Like, shit's way more expensive. This is crazy. I'm paying for everything. And he absolutely had to do the same thing. His next time back to North America, he had to go it alone, and that's how you get started in the early days. But our business model is effectively the same. Everybody is paid for the work that they do, and it's sole owned by an individual, and so little unorthodox. So I have a hard time seeing the label model and maybe translating it exactly over to what we do. But we're definitely more empowered by the freedom to, it's a lot more work. You sleep a lot less, but it's worth doing the thing yourself. And I don't know, man. I guess YouTube is the thing. If you really want to make music and content and pay the bills in a very high, very large capacity way, you gotta hit on more fronts than just the music. Um, Unless you're, for example, like some like a pop artist or something like that. There are some independent pop artists that are just crushing on streaming services. I can only imagine what those checks look like.
Mhm.
Uh, but they're also typically do have a big machine behind them, and they're not just making content in a room and living a normal life. They are doing all the other things as well. So I don't know. It's all out there. You can do as little or as much as you want,
Yeah.
you know. So, but listen. Here's the thing. as far as it pertains to your listeners, as specifically on a podcast like this, um, I used to say back in like 2016 when we were supporting animals, like, oh, there's like a glass ceiling for instrumental music. Animals are pushing on it. They're giving us, the opportunity to be there with them and to establish as household names in the genre and to like really get there. But like, where does it really go? And I think there's no ceiling now. I really truly do believe that there's been a massive reinsurgence in interest in guitar driven music, whether that's because we've been seeing guitar sort of start to like pop up into like like even like the little emo trap space that's like happening like with like weird hip hop, like where that's like you get like these emo guitar loops and stuff like that. It's like that's enough to actually like contextualize the guitar again and make it kind of cool. And then you have an overly ambitious act like Polyphia who's pushing in directions like that are bringing in fans to the world. And if they care to stay and dip a toe and dip another toe and find the guys like us that do a more specific type thing, then that's great, that's welcome. But guitar retail was the highest it had ever been through the pandemic. All these companies had reported record years for all time. Those guitars are in homes, in hands. So that should, give, sort of give us all a little bit of hope that people really do care about the craft of the thing. And people are so inundated with, they're constantly being told like politics and religion and that. And although I will say a little disheartening to see not a lot of, pushback or message from particular artists in the mainstream over the last couple of years in terms of you see those types of things and then they get silenced, and some of them are unhinged. So I'm not saying that like I'm not talking about like Trump rappers and stuff you would see on the Channel 5 documentary or like any of this weird nonsense like Insane Clown Posse like derivatives. Like we're not talking about any of that stuff. But like, where is the modern Rage Against the Machine? Where is the act that's pushing against that type of stuff? You don't get it in music, but you get it when you turn on the media or when you listen to your parents talk about what's going on or whatever. So I think instrumental music it's a great time for that because it evokes a feeling. It pairs with things like streaming, gaming, etc. It speaks to the muso if this type of stuff is what you're into, and it does not pander and tell you how to feel or think. It lets you do that for yourself, and now more than ever is the time for that. So that's how I feel about all that.
So awesome to catch up with you. It's been far too long. Man, I hope.
Likewise.
I'm really trying to stay in the picture this time around. So,
dude,
so
you got a heater on deck, so you're gonna have no problem there. You do as little as or as much as you want to do, but there's going to be a lot of people who are excited to hear that. I'll be spreading the word. I mean, the tunes are deadly, the mix is deadly, and you've always been a prolific voice on the instrument. Nobody sounds like you, and like that's such an incredible thing in the world that we exist in. So like that's going to show more than ever on your new stuff. So
cool, man.
It's there for you, man.
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, well, thanks for the massive amount of information. Goodness,
no worries.
You've been out there doing it for like 10 plus years, right? You've been on the road, so geez, something like that.
Yeah, and all the stuff before that too.
Right.
So yeah, no, for sure, man. This was great. It's a pleasure to catch up with the both of you as well. And I'm a fan of the conversations you're having on here. So fun to get on and do one. Let's connect. Let's definitely talk about. We got 2 nights in Irving, which means that we finally get like a New York show where we also get to hang a little bit too. So let's definitely connect.
Yeah. I'll find you on Instagram sometime before then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Great.
Catch you later, man.
All right. Cheers, boys.
Peace out.